My name is David Trimble, and I'm president of the Religious Freedom Institute here in Washington, D.C. We're here today at the International Religious Freedom Summit, the largest international gathering to support and defend religious freedom on the globe. And I'm privileged to have Anna Bryner with us today. I've known Anna for a long time. She's a graduate of the Brigham Young University School of Law and a young professional, young lawyer, but we've had the great experience at RFI of having her in many of our religious freedom programs. Anna, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, great to spend a few minutes with you this morning. Let me just start by asking, I think it was 5, maybe almost 6 years ago that you enrolled in our first program called the Statesmanship and Religious Freedom Program. And you were an undergraduate at the time, and yet something compelled you. You were driven to look further into understanding religious freedom. In your own experience, what was that as a young person, even a young college student at the time, that was driving your interest in religious freedom?
So during my undergrad, I went on a mission for my faith. And while I was there, I saw so many different faith groups who were actively on the front lines of feeding the hungry, right? Helping at the forefront of all of society's needs. And I also ran into a lot of issues where people told us that we couldn't talk about our faith in this space or that space. And so all of these things are sort of starting to brew in my mind. How do we enable these faith-based organizations? And also, are these restrictions legitimate? Are they based in fear? And so those things were kind of interest to me. I'd also done some research in high school about press freedom in Europe during the Cold War. And I had always kind of had this interest in human rights, civil liberties, what conditions enable people to flourish. So I returned from my mission halfway through my undergrad, and I was just excited to learn about religious freedom. I felt like I need to learn about this, but I didn't know much at all. And I would scour the internet for opportunities, but it felt like almost every opportunity, it was like, this is for, high-level professionals who are at the forefront. And so I did attend one conference with the International Center for Law and Religion Studies, and through them, I think learned about the Religious Freedom Institute, and I saw that there was a seminar for young people, and I felt like, finally, someone's calling me into the space, right? And so I was thrilled to see the application. I still remember writing the application and really hoping I would get in, and it was an amazing program in DC, and I think for me, it showed me that there are people here in the religious freedom space who care about young people being involved, who want to train us, who want us to become future leaders. And that message was something I hadn't heard yet, and that really kind of changed the trajectory of my whole career path and of my interest in religious freedom.
Well, we're so glad you applied. 6 years ago was a long time, and that was actually the first time that we offered that particular program for college students really coming from all over the United States here in DC to participate, get to know one another, and spend about 3 days together. So that was nearly 6 years ago. I mean, talk about your experience a little bit with other college students and what you experienced in that seminar. Did you really find it to be of value in terms of a building block, establishing a building block for your future religious freedom studies and going on and learning more?
Sure, yeah. There were so many things that were valuable about the Religious Freedom and Statesmanship seminar. One of the things I think was that initially we got a lay of the land a little bit in terms of religious freedom law, religious freedom history. One of the things that RFI does really well is taking an interdisciplinary approach to religious freedom. It's typical in this space, I think, to really focus on the legal structure of, how do we pursue those who are violating, but there's so much more to that, and understanding religious freedom as a fundamental and inherent human right from multiple disciplines, that was really valuable. And then in addition to that, I think we had a few seminars on really specific contemporary issues, and a lot of those I wasn't very familiar with, but I think the speakers who came in, raised my awareness and also helped me realize like I can learn these issues, I can get up to speed. So it was a great balance of both an introduction and really substantive engagement with specific areas of the world that are facing severe religious persecution.
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned a couple things, that how important, particularly on your mission and after your mission, you really felt a calling toward religious freedom. And then you've talked about the importance of really learning and education and how critical it is to understanding religious freedom and figuring out how you could participate in the movement. And I think both of those are so critical, a sense of calling, personal calling. Can you talk about that a little bit in your own experience, that calling, that personal drive just to defend religious freedom for everyone?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because in my faith tradition we'd say line upon line, right? That as you pursue one thing, more doors open. And initially I just had this really tiny, like, I should learn more about religious freedom, you know, after my mission, and went to my first conference and just had this feeling like, wow, I need to keep learning about this. And as I did, that feeling increased, and so did opportunities. Like, doors have kind of miraculously opened, where that first religious freedom conference I went to, I met people at the Law and Religion Center. You know, I was just an undergrad showing up randomly, but they kind of took me in and then introduced me to more groups like RFI who took me in. And so I've had these amazing mentors in my journey that I feel like have been divinely placed and enabled me to actually pursue this in really meaningful ways. And you know, now as a practicing attorney, it's been demanding as a first year, and I don't work in religious freedom as my full-time job. Would love to one day, but I do help to co-chair the Rising Generation Initiative with the International Center for Law and Religion Studies. And yeah, it's been a little overwhelming to try to run all these volunteer religious freedom initiatives, but when I think about stopping, it's like, well, who's going to do it, right? Who will step up? And there's just that voice that says no, like, keep going and push through and trust, you know, hopefully more resources and help will come to help advance the movement. But
well, we sure appreciate your continued involvement in the movement. Let me fast forward just a moment, because, you know, as the years passed, it was just a year and a half or so ago, had the great privilege of you serving as my research assistant. And it was a great time when the student became the teacher at many times. And so that was a great experience. I really enjoyed it and miss you a great deal. But I want you to talk a little bit about that time that you spent with us, because you know, aside from that early conference, that was really a concentrated time that you could spend with RFI, and not so much just with us, but involved in the legal aspects of religious freedom and figuring out how to really unpack legal issues. Talk about that experience a little bit, if you would.
yeah, I would say, you know, the seminar really helped me understand RFI is here for people of all faiths. It laid a framework. And then, yeah, several years later, I was still on the path, in part due to the seminar.
And we wouldn't let you go, would we?
Well, no.
We're just pulling you back
I
in.
was just grateful you let me come back. But I was really excited to intern, or well, to be a research assistant. And I remember getting my first assignment, and it was to look at, like, this mass history of legislative efforts in the religious freedom space and to analyze them. And I felt really grateful that I was getting such a substantive opportunity. So, you know, I'd had the seminar to kind of train me, lay the framework, and now it's like, we trust you. Jump in, write a giant research memo on this. And so I think I spent most of the semester on one project because there was so much to analyze, and we'd have weekly meetings and discuss, you know, this was an interesting inflection point and maybe how the policy changed or the narrative around it. And but for me, that was really valuable. I got to present all my research at the end of the semester, and professionally, I felt like it was a great opportunity for personal growth, because I was able to present, you know, a really comprehensive I hope, report that you had kind of mentored me in writing, and I think it really helped me like grow my confidence that I can contribute in this space even now, as I'm still growing and developing professionally.
Well, you were doing some great legal work at that time, Anna, and in truth, we still use your work a lot within RFI and within our advocacy and our engagement on the issues that you were researching. So, job well done to you. Well, let me close by asking you one more question. We're here at the International Religious Freedom Summit, where we're really focused on persecution around the globe for people from all faith traditions, and how, in fact, across most of the world, many communities, most societies are suffering some form of religious persecution. I want to ask, as you've had some time now, several years of looking at this issue, what is it that young people like you, that are no longer future leaders, but you're really right now young leaders in this movement, what do you think you could bring to the table? Fresh eyes, fresh insights, fresh approaches. What would you say to other young people like you, to encourage them to become part of this movement, and to maybe share with us some ideas on what you could do to be part of this movement?
Sure. I think what we lack in experience, we often have in energy and hunger to learn. I think young people are particularly good at learning quickly, and being in the space, you have to learn quickly, right? There is so much to learn and to understand. And I think that to anyone who wants to pursue work in international religious freedom, I would just say, start learning and believe you can do it. Now as a young professional where my full-time job is not in this, I feel like because of my research assistant experience, other internships, conferences, I've learned the resources in the space. I know the governing bodies in the space. So I follow, the bodies who are issuing reports or decisions. I know sort of some of the authors in the space, and I try to read their books. And the thing is, like, anyone can become informed, young or old. So if you're young, like, you can do it.
That's right.
And knowledge will bring power, and I think confidence to start speaking up. I think for so long, I felt like, wow, I can't do this because I don't know enough. But now as I keep learning, there are particular issues that I do feel much more eager and confident in speaking about. So don't hold yourself back is what I would say to any young person.
Well, that's great advice. Anna, thank you. Thank you for your energy, your enthusiasm, and your research, and what you're bringing to this movement. We are truly, truly grateful. Thank you for spending time with us today.
Yes, thanks for having me.